Morning, everybody. Today is the 8th day in the month of April 2022. My name is Heritage Adisa, market analyst at Hotforex. Quickly check the markets, find out what the overall sentiment is, if they provide opportunities, and then how we can take advantage of it. Please remember that this is just a communication material, and nothing in this communication contains or should be considered as investment advice or investment recommendation. Users acknowledge that investment in FX and CFD products is characterized by a certain degree of uncertainty, and that any investment of this nature involves a high level of risk for which users are solely responsible and liable. Now, I had this written down earlier in terms of the overall market environment. Overall, we still have a mostly mixed flow, right? We've had a lot of choppy moves for the entire week. And it's Friday and the market is starting that way. Yes, we could look at the equity space and say, yeah, it's tilting towards the upside. And we could say there is a tilt, slight positive, but generally, all things considered, it's still mostly disjointed and the moves are still mostly mixed. I said news flow was light heading into the session, but the main focus remains on sanctions on Russia, with Japan the latest planning to limit the amount of energy they buy from Russia, clearly. And as Japan is one of the major exporters of energy around the world, clearly that would also tell as well on the global market. That said, apart from that, we also have expectations for faster rate hikes, by the Federal Reserve, right, with more and more calls for neutral rates by the end of the year from even Fed members. So clearly, that's provided support for the US dollar, and the other one has provided weakness or has added weakness in the likes of the euro as well as the pound. The dollar's retained its strength this week. Although despite choppy moves that we've seen over the last 2 days, the dollar index up about 1.3% this week. The euro and pounds have remained pressured following the situation in Europe, where the pound so far is down currently 1.35% net amongst the majors. That's against the other major currencies. Commodity currencies generally trade mostly mixed in today's session. You have the CAD leading the majors, or strong amongst the major effects, finding some ground despite up and down with oil prices. And then you have NZD lagging amongst the major effects. Now, catalyst for all of those things, not really major. There's been talk about with faster and tighter monetary policy from the US, it could lead to slowdown in growth, which should weigh on, procyclical currencies like NZD, like AUD. But in terms of short term, I may not really be, it's for me. I may not really, it's not really strong enough for me to, lavish on and say, yes, but that's a reason. But right now we have that. All right, the overall mood in the market is mostly mixed, despite some decent upside in equities so far. And that's ahead of the weekend. Why? This marginal flows in FX, and then you see a lot of disjointed moves across board. Equities trade mixed into the day. European equities trade choppy up, down first and now up. But then you look at European equities and US futures, slightly firmer so far. Oil prices are near zero changed, although off the bottoms that we had in yesterday's session as well as today's session as well. Just near or just a few points near short of 97 dollar per barrel level. You look at the VIX finds a floor, although barely moved so far into the session. The bond market is also flat. The dollar index holds on to gains, right, and has been grinding higher as calls for faster tightening of US monetary policy continue to support the US dollar. And I said here, I said it's a Friday, and with Fridays, yes, you could get profit taking, you could get pullbacks, you could get rebalancing. There's all of that to watch out for. But apart from all of that, the environment is still mixed. So if you're not forcing anything is actually a good idea. If you don't have anything tangible in terms of short-term positions, just being more patient, would really help. Even if there's an idea, the convictions might not really be that high, right? Heading into this session. Now that said, but there's also one I'm looking out for as well, the pounds USD. Now we'll look at that in a bit, and then we'll talk about it. On the calendar, it's just going to be Canadian job numbers, right, expected in the day ahead. Now, quickly looking at equity space, for example, yeah, you look at what we have on the Asian side. We had downside flow. Now we're pushing push up to the upside. Yes, we could see pullbacks after the kind of downside we've had this week. We found the floor, another floor. We could see it continue higher, but in terms of convictions, there's not so much there to latch on to so far. But I mean, we want to also see how this plays out going forward. Look at also the Australian side as well. Similar story there, initial downside push up. And the kind of choppy moves that we've had over the last couple of sessions also gives you an idea of what we have so far. European US equities have started to push higher. In today's session, now starting to push higher, and it's getting even better as it goes by. We started mostly flat, but now we're seeing that tick higher. But overall, has anything really changed? Not so much. Our equity is still bound to even be lower in terms of faster and tighter monetary policy from the US. Yes. We're looking at slowdown in global growth. Yes. but there's also that to also look out for. So that just says, there's a lot of moving parts, and then being careful, patient, could really be an interesting way to look out for today's session. Also, you look at the other ones, right? Yes, we're ticking higher in recent time. This is the US 100 and Nasdaq pushing higher in recent time, but overall, I mean, we're still capped by, gains from late Wednesday session and then yesterday's session as well. So, there's really not so much appetite for me to chase this higher, generally. You look at the oil market, so far still choppy, well within yesterday's ranges. You look at downside earlier, now upside, but overall, not so much changes so far. For oil, a net daily change of 0.30% is really, really small for, an asset like oil, right? You look at the dollar index, still grinding higher, right? Like it's been all week. And then if you see profit taking from this point, it's not really a bad idea. But so far, today's moves as well, 8th of April, nothing really tangible there to work with, as of now. The VIX is still really, really, really still meandering here in today's session, not really doing so much. Yes, still capped by or provided by support in yesterday's low as well as Wednesday's lows. That has served as support for the VIX, yeah, near the 10-2, level. But all things considered, this doesn't really give us a clear picture of what the overall sentiment is, just showing us a more mixed flow, right? If it continues to push lower, break below this push, great test continues lower, that could see a quantity push higher, could help the likes of the Aussie, the CAD even better up. But generally, right now we don't really have that much to play out for. Now, crossing over to, one of the currency pairs that, I just have on my radar today. But before I just do that, looking at the majors, for example, the reason why we always talk about pairing strength versus weakness is now today's session, for example, you have USD strong, you have CAD strong, right? USD strong because of tight monetary policies from the US side. Canadian dollar strong right now because no particular catalyst for that, but it's all we have so far. You look at how it's trading so far because this is a pair of a strong currency and another strong currency. So far today, it hasn't gone anywhere. And that helps you understand why it's better to always pair strength versus weakness. If you want to compare this to looking at AUD being weak and then, or let's say NZD being weak today and USD being strong, you see the difference in the moves. So that's really, really what you want to also pay attention to, in terms of pairing. Your currency pairing should come from, your own analysis, your own decision based on what is strong and what is weak. And that provides you better, more important or better traction in terms of today's session going forward. That said, one currency pair I'm looking out for is the pound versus the US dollar. Now, this particular one, in terms of convictions, though, it's not really high, but I just wanted to just point it out to us and then we can look at it. Right, recently we've had, this level as lows going back to 29th of March, also tested again on 6th of April, later that day, yesterday as well. And in today's session, if you look, we've broken below that level, we've retested that level, even though the range in the last couple of sessions has really, really been light, even though there's that to look out for as well. But I mean, something I just wanted to just point out to us if you can also pay attention to in today's session. Now, that said, we've broken below that level around this 1.305. We've tested it. If we could, see further pushes lower from this level, that would be better for me. Although in that case, I'd like to see, sentiment really, really dumping further, more negative in terms of the news between Russia, tensions, sanctions, all of that. That would be better to help pounds lower. And then rising bond yields can also help the dollar strength as well. And if that's the case, I really wouldn't mind looking for, a target around 1.30. You look at that level as well. Also a key low going back to, I think this was 11th to 12th, 15th rather of March. So apart from that, looking about where you can anchor your risk, just above this highs of the session could be interesting for me, above the 50, 100, as well as the 200 SMA that I have on this particular chart could be a way to go just for one option. But like I said, with your entire environment be really mixed, with Friday, I mean, this conviction on this might be really low, but that is said, and that is what we have so far. On the calendar today, it's going to be a light one. There's really, really not so much going on. Yes, a couple of speeches here and there from the ECB as well, but mostly it's going to be Canadian job numbers. Yes, unemployment rate is expected to fall, but I mean, you look at the new jobs added, there's a low expected. Participation rate, not so much different, but just want to pay attention to this. There's been calls on calls. The Canadian dollar recently, yes, it's been bullish over time, but in recent time that has really, really slowed. Most of the bullishness have been priced in. So if you see a big miss in this data, oil prices it may be pushing lower, that could really help cut down, some more. But I would like to really see how this plays out, going forward. Apart from that, there's really, really nothing major on the calendar so far today. So we're going to leave it at that. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. I will always do our best to help. Thank you. Do enjoy the rest of the trading session. Goodbye for now.